And so what we've got to do is stop this step-by-step, crab-wise approach towards global government, which is what they're now going to try to do, because so many of your listeners, Alex, got onto their senators before and said the Treaty of Copenhagen, in its original draft, which I warned you about in the World Government Britain, shall not pass. We will not have it. So many of you actually did that the Democrat senators in particular got in touch with President Obama and said, we can't have this. We're not having it. We'll never get it through. We'll never be voted for again if we throw away the democracy for which our people at Gettysburg died, and our people are still dying for it. Our gallant troops now, yours and ours, in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And these lives must not be thrown away in vain. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, that is what the United States is all about. And any administration that tries to transfer power away from the Congress that you, the people, elect, towards some alien, bureaucratic, centralist, dismal dictatorship somewhere else, is, as you have rightly said, committing high treason and should be flung from office and impeached. Am I putting this too strongly, do you think?
No, sir. And I've noticed you have a great knowledge of our system of government here, but being a lord in your system of government, in your system, when you have Gordon Brown saying, I don't care if the nations didn't sign on to this, I'm setting up this fund, and we'll now have Europe, the UK, and the United States and Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and others, he calls them the Commonwealths, sign on to this and start putting money into what he and others have called global governance, global government. I mean, that is open tyranny. So can you speak to that specifically under your law and our law? And then to have Schwarzenegger, I know you were there, so you're aware of it, all over the news saying, well, I'm just going to have a governor's conference meet that he's calling himself, and I'm going to have a group of mayors meet, and we're going to implement this taxation system even if the Senate won't. And a week before Copenhagen ended, you said they may not get this through, but they are still going to try to implement it through the bureaucracy and through the local governments, so the federal bureaucracies and the local governments. I mean, is that not glaring sedition to have some usurping foreign-born governor running around organizing the states, and then to have Obama, who can't get the Senate to pass it, it looks like, just saying he'll just take money from the Treasury and serve it up to Ban Ki-moon and Maurice Strong? I mean, it's just outrageously, openly fraudulent and criminal.
Well, certainly under our Constitution, such as it is, and we don't have a written one like you, no money can be handed away by the government to anyone unless Parliament has authorized it. Now, the trouble is at the moment that our Parliament is a lot of poodles, and they, on both the major parties, and all three of them, the bigger parties, all believe in this climate nonsense. And if Gordon Brown says to them, never mind that our own people are starving and going bust at a record rate, we must give their money away to save the planet from this non-problem of the climate. Unfortunately, I think it's quite likely that in any budget in which he writes such a provision in, our Parliament would probably be like a poodle and just vote for it at the moment, because reality has not yet broken through among our governing class here. Now, in the United States, I'm less familiar with exactly what powers the President has under his executive authority to allocate money from the Treasury or the Fed to whatever project he fancies, but I think I'm right in saying...
Sir, it's totally illegal. He can't do it, and Congress is already saying that. 18, it was 14, now 18 attorney generals are saying they may file suit over not just that, but his health care. I mean, everything he's doing is unconstitutional.
I think this often happens on the left these days. He knows that Obama knows from his plummeting ratings in the opinion polls that he's not long for this world. He will be a lame duck president from this December once the midterm elections for the entire House of Representatives as well as the third of the Senate have been held. He knows this now. And so in panic, he is trying to do what the left always do, which is pay no attention to the Constitution, use taxpayers' money to fund his friends and to set up various bureaucracies that will go on representing the extreme left Marxist point of view, even once he has been deservedly flung out of office. But I'm hoping that if you've got as many as 18 ex-attorneys general willing to file suit and say, just a moment, you can't spend taxpayers' money without the authorization of Congress, then even Obama's poodles on the Supreme Court, which at the moment seems to me just about the weakest part of your Constitution, because it's not upholding the Constitution in the way that it should, I don't think even they can go along with Obama's antics with the taxpayers'
Got to hold it
money.
there, Lord Monckton. We'll be right back. We are here live. The websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Our guest website is scienceandpublicpolicy.org. We're also streaming the radio show via video at PrisonPlanet.tv, and we have the website up on screen, scienceandpublicpolicy.org. Lord Christopher Monckton is our guest. Okay, I've had a lot of my questions, and I want to get into the latest on ClimateGate, but I think the overwhelming point you've made here is we've had a giant victory, and we can feel the momentum shifting in our direction, but still the hundreds of billions globally invested in the fraud, in the global government, in the taxation scheme as the foundation of this illegal, unelected global government, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep pushing, though badly damaged. And so it's up to the people to contact their senators, their representatives, their state leaders, and say, no, no, no. Please continue, Lord Monckton. Then let's get into ClimateGate, the latest developments there.
Yeah. First of all, just to get the point of what you need to say now when you talk to your representatives, say that if there must be any kind of global government, it must be elected by the peoples of the world and not appointed by governments or by bureaucrats. It's got to be elected, and that will stop the nonsense faster than anything. So now, on to the latest on ClimateGate. I've now heard from the chairman of the independent inquiry into ClimateGate, because I wrote to him and said, look, I want to give evidence of this. He says that he's just about to appoint a team to look at who's going to give evidence and who isn't, and at that point they'll get back to me. So that is slowly happening. More interestingly, arising out of ClimateGate, there is now a general mood in the air that those who have been peddling this climate scare for so long and who have quite wrongly claimed the moral high ground are now losing it, not only because the science doesn't work out, not only because there's no economic case even if the science does work out, not only because even if we had to have something to do economically with this, we don't need a global government to do it. Not even because even if we do have a global government, it must be an elected global government, and at the moment they're planning not to. But the reason why they've lost the moral authority, above all else, is that it is becoming apparent that you are quite right, Alex, when you use words like criminal and fraud about what's going on. And, for instance, the chairman of the IPCC science panel, Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, when I was in Copenhagen, I went to hear him give a lecture. And it was a lecture on why it is that the climate is all terrible and we've got to do something about it. And I knew that he would use, and he duly did use, a bogus graph that appears 3 times, large and in full color, in the latest UN document published in 2007 about the climate. An entirely bogus graph, which was created using a false and well-known false and fraudulent statistical technique to try to pretend, quite falsely, that the rate of warming is itself increasing. And I confronted him as he arrived at that lecture and handed him a detailed letter from me explaining what was wrong with this graph, telling him not to use it, and asking him to get back to me within 48 hours to say that that graph would no longer be used, either by him or by the IPCC, and that this kind of fraud would in future be desisted from. I also raised a question at the end of his speech, having seen him use the graph, saying, look, you've used it again, and this is a bogus graph, and I'm going to give you 48 hours to get back to me. He didn't get back to me, of course, in 48 hours. And I am now reporting him to the police in India for scientific and financial fraud, because he has a large financial vested interest in numerous corporations and quangos and bodies.
And you were saying that a year ago
to money out of the climate scam.
Sir, to interrupt you were saying a year ago that he was involved. It's finally all over British and U.S. papers that they're shutting down famous steel plants in England to open them up in India when he's one of the big owners.
That's right, and he's making money out of that. We've lost 1,700 jobs in the north of England just in the last month as a result of the closure of a major steelworks at Redcar. That has now been transferred to India, where they're going to build exactly the same steelworks, and they're going to be making money twice. First of all, because they get money from us because we're no longer doing the carbon emissions, and secondly, because by using our steelworks and its technology, they will be emitting less carbon than they would have been by any other method of steel production. And we are paying at both ends for this.
Outrageous!
And our workers are losing their jobs.
British are paying to lose their jobs.